It's 11 p.m. The only light in the room is the sharp, blue glare of your laptop screen. You close down the team messaging app, but your hand stays frozen on the mouse. There's a distinct, hollow tightness sitting right at the top of your ribs. You haven't actually moved in 3 hours, but you feel like you've been running a marathon in a crowded stadium. The exhaustion isn't just physical. It's a deep, cognitive drain that makes the idea of speaking to another human being feel like moving a mountain. And somewhere in the periphery of your vision, quietly observing from the top of a dimly lit bookshelf, is your cat. They are completely still, unbothered, watching you with a look of absolute, unblinking judgment. I keep looking at this specific contrast, the exhausted human and the sovereign animal, and I think it explains a massive portion of our modern burnout. We live in a society that fundamentally operates on a canine operating system. Hustle culture, corporate hierarchies, the relentless churn of social media, they all run on exhausting pack dynamics. They demand constant performance, visible loyalty, endless extroversion, and an eager willingness to perform tricks for societal treats. You are placed in this neon-lit showdog ring, expected to bark on command, wag your tail at every calendar invite, and prove your worth through sheer enthusiasm. But what I think might be happening is that you aren't intrinsically broken or uniquely terrible at managing your time. You are simply an introvert being forced to perform as a golden retriever in a relentless social circus, built by a hyperconnected economy, but maintained by our quiet habit of assuming we have to play along. Which brings us back to the bookshelf and the creature watching you. There's something I came across recently in the psychological literature that completely reframed how I see this dynamic, and it has nothing to do with pet ownership in the traditional sense. Research from institutions like Carroll University and UT Austin tends to suggest that people who gravitate toward cats consistently score higher in specific defining traits, namely intelligence and non-conformity. They are measured to be about 11% more open to new experiences, heavily favoring unconventional, solitary pursuits over pack mentality alignment. When I read that, it shifted something for me. I realized that people who choose this specific type of companionship aren't just looking for an animal that doesn't need to be walked at 6 in the morning. They are subconsciously rejecting the pack. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe it's not just a rejection. Maybe it is an active, daily rebellion. The cat represents the ultimate anti-hustle icon. They are an autonomous creature that absolutely refuses to perform for external validation. You look at them, sitting there in the shadows, and there is this quiet, undeniable interspecies envy. They don't care about your unread emails. They don't care about your career trajectory. They exist entirely outside the manufactured urgency of the canine operating system. But it goes far beyond just admiring their psychological attitude. There is a literal, physiological transaction happening in your living room. Hustle culture is incredibly effective at spiking our cortisol, keeping our nervous systems trapped in a low-grade, perpetual fight-or-flight response. Your jaw is tight. The calendar is full. Someone asks for one more quick favor and you type, "No problem," while your blood pressure silently spikes. You are chemically braced for an impact that never physically arrives. But then the cat jumps onto your desk. They step directly over your keyboard, entirely unconcerned with whatever is on the screen, and they lie down across your wrists, and they start to purr. Studies in Bio-Acoustics have found that a domestic cat's purr specifically oscillates at a frequency between 25 and 140 Hz. In human medicine, frequencies in this exact range have been shown to lower blood pressure, decrease dyspnea, and even promote bone density and tissue repair. This isn't just a comforting sound or a cute behavioral quirk. The cat is essentially functioning as a highly evolved, living parasympathetic medical device. They actively repair the adrenal damage inflicted by your workday. The heavy, Rhythmic vibration against your chest is an evolutionary mechanism that forces your nervous system to stand down. And yet, I don't think the physical healing is the real reason we keep them around. If I had to name it, and I'm not sure I can capture it perfectly, it feels like it's about the architecture of consent. We are surrounded by a world that demands boundary-less affection. The pack requires you to always be available, always be responsive, always be on. But a cat demands strict, ongoing consent. You cannot force a cat to sit with you. If you cross their boundary, they leave. They do not apologize. They do not worry if they have offended you. They are the absolute masters of the joy of missing out. I used to think introverts loved cats simply because they were easy to take care of. But the more I look at it, the more I realize it's an apprenticeship. You aren't just adopting a companion. You are taking daily psychological notes on how to say no and enforce your personal space without an ounce of guilt. The cat is a biological mentor in boundary setting. We watch them walk away from things that don't serve them, and we are quietly learning how to do the same. They teach us that our presence alone is enough, and that we do not have to constantly perform to be worthy of taking up space in a room. It's Tuesday afternoon. The third video call of the day just ended. You shut the laptop and the silence in the apartment is almost deafening. You feel that familiar, bone-deep social fatigue. Then the cat walks in. They don't demand your attention. They don't need you to entertain them. They just hop onto the sofa, face the other way, and go to sleep. It is the profound safety of parallel play. It is connection without depletion. They offer companionship with zero social friction, zero financial drain, and zero emotional labor. You're probably just sitting there in your kitchen, staring blankly at the microwave clock, but in that moment the environment makes sense again. You are allowed to just exist. We spend so much time apologizing for our low-maintenance, independent lifestyles. We feel guilty for not wanting to go to the networking event, for leaving the party early, for not matching the frantic, golden retriever energy of the people around us. But maybe the goal isn't to learn how to endure the show dog ring better. Maybe the goal is to realize you never belonged in the ring to begin with. You have the agency to step out of the arena, look up at the high shelf, and permanently adopt a different operating system. If this quiet rebellion makes sense to you, you'll find familiar ground in the other thoughts we explore here. But the reality is, the world is going to wake up tomorrow and demand that you perform again. The emails will still arrive, the pack will still bark, and the pressure to conform will still be waiting at your front door. The only question is whether you will keep trying to win a game designed to exhaust you, or if you will finally give yourself permission to look away. And then it's just Tuesday.